Okay, are we back? I started this and then it suddenly lost the connection. So we'll pick up again. So I was talking about, let me get my little drink here. I've been on the trail of culture, and this morning I talked about this new show called The Good Doctor, which is a movie metaphor for a person who is not enculturated. He's outside of culture. And of course the movie presents it in terms of an autistic person who is outside of culture. That's why they can't communicate with them. They're in some place outside of culture. Can't get to them. They're outside of the womb. They're outside of the veil. They're outside of the verbal semantic language of culture, you see, so we can't communicate with them. But then this movie is about a autistic savant who is tapped into all the medical biological levels. He's tapped into a field of knowledge that gives him insight or gives him superhuman skills in surgery. So that's the story. But the point is that the movie is a model for somebody who is not enculturated. So he's innocent, honest, and he's tapped into a higher source of knowledge. He's tapped into intelligence. See, in culture, we tap into intellect, intellectual knowledge. You see, culture is run by intellectual knowledge, thinking, analysis, logic, and all that. But intelligence, the universe is intelligence. But see, our culture says, oh no, the universe is just blind stuff, just dumb matter, and we have to control it. So culture has to control nature, you see. But all the mystical sciences, all of the non-dual, all of the Eastern traditions, all the other traditions outside of our Western culture tradition say, no, nature, reality is intelligence. Mother Earth is intelligent. But then inside culture we say, no, nature is not intelligence. God's intelligent, but then culture puts God inside of nature. So culture eats everything and puts it, as long as it's inside of culture, it's defined by culture. Now I've been working at this my whole life. I'm 80 years old. I'm not bragging. I mean, it's not a badge of honor. It's just that I've been at this a long time. The fact that we are in culture means that our ego is a mini culture. The ego is the son of culture. Of course, Jesus said, I'm the son of man. Well, what does that mean, you see? The Son of Man means that he is the son of natural man, organic man, Superman, true man. All of these superheroes, all of these original, true, honest, authentic, all of these, quote, men, speaking in general, including women, all of these men, these super persons, you see, are outside of culture. So they are kind of like mythic people, saviors. They come in from the West, save the town, and then leave, you see. The savior is somebody who comes in from outside of culture. Now, artists and scientists and inventors, musicians, and everyday men, all of us have transcendent experiences. Now, a transcendent experience is knowledge that comes in from outside of culture. You have to get the feeling and the sense that culture is a balloon or an egg. Oh, culture is an eggshell, you see. And a few of us break out. But when we break out, we fall off and nobody knows who we are because we're outside of culture. Culture is the known world. Outside of culture is unknown. So inside of culture is known. And we all have little wars and fighting and culture. There's subcultures and there's people, everybody's trying to break out, you see, but when they break out, they just drop into another rebel culture inside the egg. Everything is inside the egg. Non-dualism, that's the latest philosophy now. Non-dualism means outside of culture. Because culture is dual. Everything in culture, it's like Noah's Ark. Everything comes in pairs. So we're kind of like floating around in Noah's Ark. And science fiction talks about this all the time. We live in an artificial, abstract replication of nature in culture, and we have movies about nature and pictures about nature. So everything that we see is inside culture. Plato described this as Plato's cave. We're all inside of a cave, looking at shadows on the wall, thinking they're watching movies on the wall. Excuse me. See. So we're all in this culture bubble, and then we think we've dropped out when we drop into a subculture who says, I'm against culture, but they're inside culture. Culture doesn't care. As long as you're inside culture, culture doesn't care who you are. Be alt-right, alt-left, alt-up, alt-down. Doesn't make any difference. You're still inside of it. This is the way the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages operated. I mean, it didn't care if you were pagan or not. You just brought you on in and incorporated you into the Catholic Church. So, you know, the Roman Empire worked that way. They didn't have there was nobody outside of the Roman Empire. If you were another cult barbarians, they just incorporated you in, and you could keep your little subculture as long as you were inside the cultural egg. So as long as you're inside the egg, the big egg, you can have your little eggs. You can be your rebels. You can be your alt-rights. You see, you can do all that. You see, you can be anti-culture, anti-government, anti-this, anti-that, but you're still inside the egg, you see. And that's the big illusion or delusion of culture, because culture by its nature convinces us that we're outside of it. So we're all against culture. Now again, I don't want to mean culture is, we think of culture as being art and music and all that. No, this is the full Monty. This is the big egg that includes wars, art, science, religion, atheism, the whole works. Everything is included in culture. If you can name it and you can communicate with it, it's inside culture. Culture is the known, you see. Krishnamurti talked always about freedom from the known. You know, so all of this is the same teaching, but we just have different words and different angles on it and different ways of communicating it. But it's the essential core, the essential truth that I try to get at, you see. That, and it has to be experienced and explored in your everyday mind, in your everyday life, because that's where culture starts. That's why Krishnamurti said, you are the world and the world is you. Or, you are culture and culture is you. Which means that all of culture is in you. And you are in culture. There's an interactive dynamic going on between each of us in culture. And this is beautifully displayed now or shown in the internet, which is a new paradigm that's really new. Because the internet is a reality, electronic reality, it depends upon electricity, but it's a reality in which we're all we're creators and the created. In other words, all of us, we're all creating the internet, and the internet is creating us. It's an interaction, creator and created. Like the artist paints a picture and the picture paints him. So on the internet is a great metaphor for this. The internet is a metaphor for the reality of culture, in that we're all creating culture and culture is creating us. And then the internet, you see, is in culture. But if you look at it as a metaphor, then the internet then becomes a metaphor for the culture that includes the internet. Now, up until now, the paradigm has been we're the created and culture is the creator. But now that's changing. And now we realize, particularly through the internet, that everybody's got this. You see right here, this is a computer. And this is the portal to the Internet, it's like a big brain. It's like on Avatar with Pandora was a big brain. Well, the internet is a big brain. And this is the mind. This is the individual mind. This individual mind creates the internet, and the internet creates it, you see. Now I can go on here and change the internet. Change WikiLeaks. Not Winnipeg, no, whatever that thing is. And now you get the idea. We all go on here and we change the internet. And then the internet changes us. So it's an interactive thing, you see. But this is the center of the internet. When I say you are the center of the world world is you. This says here, I am the internet is me. I'm the center. If this could speak, it would say, I am the center of the internet, of the world. Every computer is the center of the internet. But there's no location. It's not in space-time. The internet is not in space. Can you go on a map and find it? No, the internet transcends space-time. So it's a field, you see. And if you want to call the field down to you, if you want to tap into the field like a savant now, the savant, the good doctor, taps into the field of medical knowledge, biology. He taps into the biology field in the same way that the cell phone taps into the internet field. And it is a direct conduit, you see. You have one of these, you can tap into any field that's on the internet. You can tap into science, tap into porn, tap into whatever you want, you see. All of these are fields. So the internet contains these multiple fields of knowledge. But it's more than just a memories. It's more than just a storehouse. So the savant does not tap into just a memory bank. So memory cards, you see. It's an active, creative field that he's tapping into. You see. So it's not just knowledge, it's interactive. In the same way that the cell phone taps into the internet, not just as static recorded knowledge, but it's creative tapping into it. You can play with it. You can play with the cell phone, you can play with the internet. Now we're kind of getting down to it. So the creator-created relationship is play. Now culture can't play. In the culture as the parent, you see. Culture is kind of like the mother or the father who sits on the sofa and watches the kids play, but they don't get down on the floor. They don't enter into the kids' play. They're kind of like, oh, isn't that amusing? It's time for dinner, get up. You see? So culture, as the parent, as the womb in which we live, can't play. You see? Oh, it allows us to play inside, but we can't play with culture. You see, culture is serious business. And if you dare doubt culture, well, it's like doubting the church. They're going to kick you out. Well, they're not going to kick you out of culture. They're going to shame you. You see, and shame you into coming back. You see, shame and guilt are the tools of culture to keep you within the egg. So you don't dare question culture because you're going to be ostracized by your friends, by your family. You're going to be exiled. So anyway, I titled this talk The Call of the Wild because I was just watching Murdoch Mysteries. And he'd gone to Alaska, and he's a detective in the Victorian age. And he meets a friend, and they're talking, and they solve a crime and all that. And so he's going to go back to Toronto, and he says, and this guy, his friend's name is Jack, and he says, yeah, they're looking over the vista, and he says, yeah, it's the call of the wild. And Jack says, oh, that's very interesting. I like that phrase. And he said, well, what's your name? He says, my name is Jack London. So that kind of stuck with me, the call of the wild. The call of the wild means the call of the wild or the freedom outside of culture. Now see, America was built on the call of the wild because culture, America was created to get free of English culture, English history, the religious wars. So we came here to the New World. And then culture came to the East Coast. And so the explorers kept going west, the call of the wild. They wanted to be outside of culture and be free. They kept going west, you see. Go west, young man. Be free of culture. And that myth is still going on. But now the whole country is culture. You see. So now we're just in the movies. Or there are many who now going west is going to extreme sports. And if you go to extreme sports and start climbing a mountain with your bare fingers, you're outside of culture. So there are a lot of ways that we experience the call of the wild when we drop out of culture, and we usually make a lot of money on it to become famous or write a book. It's a big deal. Because we come back into culture and incorporate it, you see. The rare master or yogi or Zen master stays outside of culture, but he sits in culture under a tree and teaches. But he's a whole in culture. You see, so he's kind of like in culture, but not in culture. And of course, that's what Jesus said he was. Be in the world, but not of the world. So Jesus wasn't enculturated. You know, Jesus was the call of the wild. But Jesus got incorporated back into culture because religion is culture. So religion and the church made him safe, you see, and incorporated the teaching into culture, which is wasn't what Jesus was all about. Anyway, so my bell rang, and thanks for coming back. If you started in and then dropped off because the connection dropped anyway. But come in and stay with me and follow me, because I'm on the scent. I'm like Sherlock Holmes. I'm on the scent of culture and the egg that's enclosing us. And it's getting very violent in here. There's a lot of anxiety in here in this eggshell of culture. People are shooting each other. There's floating anxiety. Everybody's running around. What's the cause? Why are we all trapped in here? Who did it? Obama did it. Trump did it. The immigrants did it. The terrorists did it. You know, everybody's being blamed for the anxiety and the terror inside the egg of culture. But the cause isn't in culture. You see. The cause is the egg. We need a bigger boat. We need more understanding. We need to expand our horizons, you see. Okay, thanks for dropping in.